Loan money coming in. Yeah, I saw it again under the expenditure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
We are. We're ready to go, folks. And just before we open meetings, we are streaming. Everybody can see Zoom up here. We're also streaming live on Facebook, and we are also streaming on YouTube. The meeting, we do report.
Okay, I'll go ahead and open the board of directors for Lane Fire at 6 o'clock with myself, Kurt Wilson, Brian Walker, my president,
No, Mark Moore.
Mark McLaurin, excuse me, when Greg busy.
Yeah, I have not heard from Director D. So.
And I'll open the Santa Clara Fire Board meeting. Myself, it looks like all four of the others are on.
Greg's. We'll stand salute flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got one piece of business to tend to before we start in here.
We had one final application to fill out LFA's budget committee, and that is Rick Ingham. Rick is at the table over here, and so I sent that application to the board, and it is up to the board to accept that application and appoint Rick to the 26-27 budget committee.
I move we appoint Rick to the budget committee. I'm sorry, I didn't sure. Rick Ingram to the budget committee.
Ingham.
I'll second.
Been made and seconded. Questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All present. Okay,
And then Santa Clara, I do not see Cody Fuller here tonight, so. I know he's been included in all the communications, but I have not seen him. So at this point, I guess we can probably skip that piece of business.
okay, I'll go ahead then and recess the meeting for the board at this time. You want to put yours, Rod?
What's that?
You want to put yours? For
Recess the regular meeting and open budget committee.
Okay. Yes.
okay,
Call to order and open the budget meeting for Santa Clara Fire District.
okay, opening the budget committee, I've entertained a person for the chair of the board.
Budget committee chair for Lane Fire Authority.
Your nomination from somebody?
Historically, it's usually a member of the budget committee and not the board, but I don't think either is prohibited.
Any volunteers?
You ought to throw Rick right in the. Does that seem fair at all? You don't have to do anything. If you need somebody's name, that's fine.
Somebody.
They're definitely working from a lack of knowledge here, but happy to have my name on it.
Somebody, if board or budget committee want to nominate Rick Ingham as the LFA budget committee chairperson.
I would nominate Rick. The decision.
All in favor?
We need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have it.
Don't worry.
I'll nominate Frank for the budget committee chairman. All those in favor say aye.
Who,
Frank.
Frank, and then who seconded that?
Oh. Second.
Any second?
So.
Rod raised his hand.
All those in favor to have Frank be our committee chairman, say aye. Aye. Yeah, all those opposed? All right. We've done it before.
Okay. Where we go? We will start off with Santa Clara's budget tonight. Obviously, there's a little tidier, a little quicker, a little bit different situation. So we'll start with Santa Clara this evening, get through that, get through their, hopefully resolution to adopt or propose and adopt the tax rate. And then we will, that way, Santa Clara Budget Committee members, they can feel free to stay around and partake if you so like, or can head on out, either way. Pat's probably stuck here. So, all right, we'll start off with Santa Clara's. And once again, every year I do this, I never know quite how to tackle it, but Santa Clara's budget, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Again, this year, anticipated cash carryover for Santa Clara. Hopefully, yeah, I'm looking at the right one. Santa Clara will be carrying over in their general fund $536,755. We're conservatively anticipating about 50,000 in revenue. It'll probably be a little more than that. We've seen that historically, but yet we like to forecast a pretty conservative number. So we get down to resources. Oh, sorry, I'm on the first page, the LB20 form, which is our revenues coming in to budget. So looking at that page, down at the bottom for Santa Clara. So total resources except taxes to be levied will be $3,586,755. And then Santa Clara's estimated taxes to be received based on valuation for this coming year, $1,254,911. So that brings Santa Clara's total resources to $4,841,666 for fiscal year 26-27. Go into the next page, the LB30 form, which is a summary of all funds. I'm going to kind of pass that one and let's go to the LB31 next page. The 30 is required. It's really just a summary of all funds in our special district budgets. Starting off on the LB31, obviously, for a lot of years now, Lane Fire Authority is the contract service provider, so there are no expenses for Santa Clara out of personnel services. So those are as usual zeroed, and you will see that in the historical columns. Materials and Services Fund, we always keep a little bit in there for professional services for Santa Clara, obviously to deal with any type of legal expense or such. They at least have some funds available there to deal with that. 10,000 in operational expenses, 10,000 supplies, and 10,000 for maintenance. So brings Santa Clara's as historically, interestingly enough, how did I miss getting the historical for 24-25 but I did. I will fix that. Not here, but I will fix it. So, but it's the same as this year. 46,000 total for materials and services. I've been looking at too many budget documents. Moving on, next page on the LB31. Capital outlay. There is nothing in general fund capital outlay. Santa Clara maintains a, we'll see it coming up on the LB11. They maintain a capital reserve fund, special fund, and that's where they make all their capital purchases from. So nothing into capital outlay. Your capital reserve fund, I did not add any transfers to your capital reserve, and we'll get to that here pretty quick. Your capital reserve fund is sitting pretty flush. So, and I know we haven't talked about any major expenses in capital outlay. So I chose to propose that we don't make any transfers to capital outlay. And then obviously to the service contract coming to Lane Fire Authority in this proposed budget year, $852,884. And that is a 2.5% increase from this current year. according to our contract. And so total out of transfer funds is just a contractual fee of $852,884. Bringing Santa Clara's total expenditures to $898,884. Leaving Santa Clara Fire District with an unappropriated ending fund balance of $3,942,782. And total requirements at $4,841,666. And then last page, the LB11, the special reserve capital fund that I talked about. So you're sitting currently, our projection, cash on hand in your reserve fund is $1,135,954. So that is kind of the reason I did not propose any transfer from general to capital. It's in pretty good shape right now. Obviously, if Santa Clara would like to do that, we can do that. We could make that adjustment and move some money over. That is absolutely up to Santa Clara Board and Santa Clara Budget Committee to do that if they so wish, but we're sitting in pretty good shape. So, our earnings from temporary investments or interest on that money, very conservative. We figure about 7,000 that will accrue. It will most likely be more than that this coming year. Bringing the total resources of the capital reserve, total incoming resources of $1,142,954. We have allocated $700,000 available to spend out of that reserve fund in the event Santa Clara maybe needed to, purchase something out of there. Nothing big foreseeable right now, but nonetheless, we've allocated some money in there, $700,000 available out of those funds. That, if it was totally spent, that would leave you an unappropriated ending fund balance of $442,954, bringing your total requirements for the capital reserve fund to $1,142,950. And that is the sum of the LBs for Santa Clara. I did not go through the did everyone have a chance to read the budget message? Nobody, no takers? Nobody read the budget message? Okay, people did. I didn't really talk about taxing structure. We're actually required to talk about that. It's in the budget message that gets published, so. Yeah, as a result of Measure 50 in 1997, we were capitated on permanent rate for the special district. We're allowed, and that is on our dollar per thousand of assessed value. We are allowed to take up to constitutional Measure 50. It allows us to take up to 3% inflation on that assessed value. We do that annually when we figure the anticipation for the next coming fiscal year. And then when we do revenues, Santa Clara assumes out of that gross number, Santa Clara assumes a 10% non-collection rate on that. And so it's always a very conservative tax collection, tax anticipation for Santa Clara. Any questions on how we derive and reach those revenues per year?
Right.
Oh. Cody has made it. There he is.
We need to nominate him then.
Cody was on, he's been on budget committee. He's still got time on budget committee. I would maybe get a motion to affirm that he's here and now attending on Santa Clara's budget committee. I would probably do a motion just to affirm. So
I'd like to make a motion to put Cody on.
I would make that motion.
Good. I hear a second.
Second,
Motion with second. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? All right.
all right. In our budget message, actually, it just walks down through the same as what you've seen in the LB forms. We show that revenue generation there we're basing it off of the 25-26 assessed value. We get that off of a table 4A from Lane County. That comes out October of every year. So that is based off of the October 25-26 actual assessed value table 4A from Lane County. And then we assume that estimated growth in there based on the assessed value, and then derive a value estimation times the permanent rate plus the operations levy, which gives the total authorized levy minus or plus additional taxes and penalties, gives us a net levy. And then you can see between net levy and what we are estimating collectible, that's a 10% difference. So that's how we derive that revenue percent annually. And then obviously the word form of each all the general fund resources. Any questions? Oh, that was pretty quick and easy.
Yeah. So I need to make a motion on approve the budget.
Actually, it'll be a motion to approve a resolution for Santa Clara. And I will, if you folks are ready, if the Santa Clara Board of Budget Committee are happy with that presented budget, then we will move forward with Santa Clara's resolution to propose that budget and tax rate for fiscal year. Are you ready for me to read? All right. This is Santa Clara Resolution number 2025-2026-02, proposing the budget and adopting the tax rate per levy for fiscal year 2026-2027. Whereas the Budget Committee of Santa Clara Fire District desires to use the permanent rate as their basis to levy taxes, and whereas the Budget Committee has held all statutorily required hearings and adoption by the governing body, be it resolved that the Budget Committee of Santa Clara Fire at their budget meeting of May 21st, 2026, hereby authorizes the district's permanent rate of $1.0439 per thousand of assessed valuation and the local option levy rate of 45 cents per thousand assessed valuation to be used as a basis to levy taxes for the general fund. Further, the Budget Committee recommends the proposed operating budget to the Board of Directors for adoption following public hearing before said board. This resolution is adopted by the Budget Committee of Santa Clara Fire this 21st day of May 2026. Signed by the Budget Committee Chair and attested by the Board President. Now we can do it.
Do I have a motion to vote on budget as presented for 25-26? Resolution of the budget. Resolution of the budget?
Yep. You have a motion to approve Santa Clara Budget Resolution 2025-2026-02.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it passes.
I kind of got ahead of myself. I think we probably should have asked for public comment on the Santa Clara budget. Sorry about that. I apologize. Any public comment on Santa Clara's budget? All right. We will get these,
Excuse me, did I keep hearing the 25-26 budget though?
no, it's the 26-27, but the resolution is done now, so it's a 25-26-02 resolution.
Okay, that's the name. of the
Proposing.
resolution.
Yes, proposing the 26-27 budget.
Yeah, that's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, that gets kind of confusing sometimes. And we'll get signatures on these before I forget about it. Russ, gonna get you to sign the copies, like a backup in case it's full copy. It's choice. Excellent. All right, we will move into, if everybody's ready, we'll move into Lane Fire Authority budget. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read the budget message. Budget structure, same things as far as tax revenue generation, materials and service, debt service, all those things. I'm gonna go off script and just talk before we get started. As I gather, probably most folks are familiar, we did not pass our operational levy Tuesday night. So that leaves us in a quandary. We are, we asked for another 20 cents in a renewal on top of the 35 we had, and our voters were loud and clear. And we did not pass that operational levy. So just want to say, I think we put our post today. I think our voters who came out and supported us. Thanks to people for coming out voting, and I encourage people to get out and vote. And so I think we got the message loud and clear. So as we worked through the budget process, we had built a finance committee basically came up with we passed the levy. This is what that budget looks like. We don't pass the levy. This is what that budget looks like. Worst case scenario, we call it. I'm not going to use the D word, but worst case scenario. And so that is what we have proposed. As you read through the budget message, probably one of the biggest topics is probably ambulance service. It takes a significant amount of staff to run that ambulance service. If we have to live within this proposed budget, we don't have the staff to run ambulances. And so really where that leaves us is we have to vacate our ASA. Is that where we want to be? No, that is not where we want to be. Trying to get straight in my head where to go next. We just started, our contract is open, our labor agreement. We just sat down, yesterday was our first day to sit down with our bargaining unit and start the negotiating process. We could have proposed a different looking budget, but that would have been based on assumptions that we don't know are attainable. And so here we are, we felt compelled to propose what we felt was our best case scenario with just our permanent rate taxes. As I said, not where we want to be. And we're going to try to have something different. My gut says, if the board and budget committee approve this tonight, we'll walk through it here in a bit. I think most people have probably looked at it more than any other budget probably that we've ever proposed, because it looks drastically different than anyone we've ever proposed before. And most significantly, it's in our personnel services. We find ourselves, if we talked about it through our Q&A sessions and our interactions with the public, newsletters, letters we put out, our cost of doing business just keeps increasing up and up. Insurance costs, workers' comp, all those things, it just continues to go up. Has anybody fueled up lately? It is astronomical what fuel costs. The amount of fuel we go through on a daily, monthly basis is astronomical. And so to keep up with all those costs, we do not have the funds just on our permanent rate as we're looking at it to maintain that. So we have got to make cuts. We have got to live differently. We've got to do different things. As I said, not where we want to be. We hope to be in a different spot, but I think some of those things we talk about, some of those assumptions, we obviously need to be lockstep with our labor unit and in agreement with our labor unit as we move forward. The last thing we want to do is vacate our ambulance service area, our ASA. And once again, here, this is Chief Orland or this is Dale talking. I know what it took to get an ASA in 2001, 2002. The amount of work it took. It is a premier service with great folks. Sorry. Catch myself.
You crunched all the numbers, Dale, what does it? What's it gonna take to keep that portion of it running?
I don't have an exact number for you, Frank. Because when we talk about keeping it running, I'm not talking about keeping it running like it is right now. Right now, we've got two 24/7, 365 ALS transport units that run as we've had for years. Through the end of this year, we've realized we already have not filled positions in our current budget, and we'll talk about that as we move through. So when we failed in November, remember our administrative secretary retired prior to that. We were in the movement of refilling that position, and then we failed the levy vote in November. And at that point, we decided to pull our points back and not fill that position, because not knowing what we were going to run into in May, and here we sit today, the worst just came to fruition. We decided not to fill that. So we have already eliminated. We've had retirement, we've had move up, we've had a couple folks leave that went and got employment elsewhere, either a job they've been working on for a while. So we're already down positions. And as we will see, our cash carryover position is a little better at the end of this year. If you look at our original proposed budget for this fiscal year, we were at $139 cash carryover. We're now sitting, and I'll talk about it tonight, you'll see in this budget, we're proposing 700,000 in cash carryover, because we have effectively not filled some positions back, and we have reduced our expense in this current year. So when it comes to an exact number of what we need to fill it, I can't really put it, I can put a number on it, but I don't want to put a number on it, because we don't know what it's going to look like in the end. When we get done going through the process, we know where we're at right now, but we're not making any assumptions in this budget right here. We are strictly working off of cash we carry over and what we can do with that money, and given our permanent rate taxes that we'll get November, December. That's what we're doing in this budget. I hope to be in a much better position in the end. But I'm not gonna sit here and speculate on assumptions as we go through the negotiating process with the labor group. So, back to where I was. We have provided a premier service for years with great people. And the last thing we want to do is to vacate that and walk away from it. And it's not just about our people. That service, we started providing the amount of increased service level, that EMS service of transport that we have provided to our entire community, our ambulance service area. If we vacate that and walk away from it, what are the alternatives? That means somebody else is going to do it, whether it's another ASA holder, it's private ambulance that comes in and takes it. I believe ambulance service needs to remain in the public provider venue in this state, in this county, because I think it is the most regulated and most controllable ambulance service. And there are great private companies out there, and I'm not sitting here trying to bash on private companies or anything like that. Please don't take it that way. But we have maintained control of that transport within our ambulance service area since 2002. And I think we've had gold standard of transport, and we're very proud of that. We don't want to give it up. So our goal between now and when this budget goes into effect is to have a little bit different picture. It is vitally important that we maintain our ASA. If we vacate it, we will never get it back. I'm just going to make the statement. We'll never get it back. It's gone. Somebody else will take it. It'll be out of our hands. I also believe, and a matter of fact, I had a phone conversation with Chief Caven from City of Eugene today. And there are other implications to us vacating the ambulance service area. And I know I can't probably illustrate or orchestrate the entire story here. But when we took on ambulance service in 2002, we gained some leverage, so to speak, in the county. And really established ourselves as a fire district and a transport provider. If we give that up, we will lose leverage. And I think that will have some sort of impact on us, whether it's in Santa Clara Fire District or our district, Lane Fire Authority, within the urban growth of the city of Eugene. And I have very, very frank, open conversations with the Eugene Fire Chief about that. Now, somebody could say I'm all wrong. Okay, whatever. But there are more implications than just getting rid of it and reducing that service level to our citizens. And other folks, other citizens in our ASA. And when I think about impacts, I feel just as bad if we had to vacate it, not just the impact on our citizens. I think it's anywhere our ambulances respond in our ASA. Anytime one of our ambulances goes in and helps out Eugene Springfield, if one has to go to Cottage Grove, if it goes to Coburg Fire District, Mohawk, because we end up going everywhere with our ambulance system. So I'm resolute. We do not want to have to give it up. We are going to scratch, fight, you name it, to figure out some way to try and hang on to that. We may not and probably won't look like we do right now, but at least hang on to it until over time we can build our service level back up again over time. So that's kind of a story in a nutshell. And so on to the budget we proposed.
Can I ask a couple of questions, or you want to take those at the end?
Oh, no, go ahead.
So I want to make sure I understand, so, the budget that's in front of us, the proposed budget in front of us. Is actually giving up our ambulance service, right?
Correct.
So what we're being asked to approve. Is that,
Yes.
and then we have to then, over the next couple of months, navigate that process of. Not of making some changes, whatever that's gonna look like.
Yeah.
To do that. And then what exactly does, without getting into too much detail, is giving up an ASA mean? Is there some kind of notification? That we need to provide so someone else has time to fill the void, or do we just say we're not doing it anymore?
There's a notification process. And when I make that call to Lane County and say, we are giving you notice, we're going to vacate, that's a 60-day time clock.
So we're approving let's say the scenario, we're within 60 days of, almost 60 days, no, less than 60 days from July 1. So we approve this budget. And you're making that call tomorrow, and then are we risking not being able to get the ASA back? Is that
We won't actually approve the budget till next month. This is just a recommendation to the board.
Okay, but if we,
This is what's proposed to the board. Just because we say in this budget, we're vacating the ASA, doesn't mean we have to vacate the ASA.
we don't have to do that.
That is between me and Rose and the county.
Okay,
And so, once again, part of my conversation with Chief Caven today is talking about what does that look like? It doesn't mean we have to do it. I have no doubt the county, once I make that call, that the county is gonna give us some flexibility, because I can tell you the last thing the county wants is an ASA back on the table. That's the last thing they want. And so, by the time we get to budget hearing, third Tuesday in June, I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, we're gonna have a different picture. We may move forward with this budget at the budget hearing, and we'll start into our year. If we make the notification to vacate the ASA, which we're going to need to, we're gonna be into July. Probably to the latter part of July before we can officially vacate the ASA. And so we're gonna be moving through until then. And then we can make the change. So we're gonna go into this budget probably staffed, I would presume, as we are. until we reach that 60-day time clock.
Okay.
And then
That's really what I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm hopeful we be going a different direction.
Okay.
So a lot of work between now and then.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So as I had talked about, available cash on hand, I talked earlier about things we've done this year, pulling our horns back. We also had in this fiscal year, we had proposed hiring a certified mechanic for the shop. We did not do that. We were also starting into that process. I think actually we had flown an ad for that. And then we failed the November election and we pulled the ad down. We backed out. So kind of some of the things we started doing coming toward May, part of our campaign, as promotions happened, we didn't fill positions. If somebody left, we didn't fill it. We haven't laid anybody off to this point. But we just haven't refilled positions. As I said, lack of a better term, we have pulled our horns in and trying to change our cash position at the end of the year and not end up with $139 in cash carryover. We are more in the realm of, in this budget, what we propose, 700,000 cash carryover, our position. Our position as of today, working with Cheryl, Cheryl has devised this Excel spreadsheet where we start tracking expenses and all those things as we get into our budget process. We call it our cash carryover spreadsheet. And as of today, and the closer we get, we're, a little over a month away from the end of our fiscal. The closer we get to that end date of the fiscal year, the more comfortable we get with the number that we're proposing. So we are in a better position than 700,000 as of this morning. So I would propose that at this budget committee tonight, that we raise that to 1 million cash carryover. We raise it from 700 to 1 million. And that, once again, I won't say super conservative, but pretty comfortable with that number of cash we will carry forward at the end of this fiscal year. Interest, conservative estimate. And once again, sorry, folks, I am on the front page, the LB20, which is our revenues for the Lane Fire Authority budget, proposed budget. Conservative revenue estimate, 30,000. Miscellaneous, income, 40,000. We really didn't project probably maybe any change in that when it comes to miscellaneous income. It could be there, it could be slightly lower, it could be slightly more. As you can see, historically, we've always been above that. So once again, a conservative prediction. And just to resound it again, we always try to be very conservative when we make these revenue predictions. Being conservative, always the best route to go. You start to push the numbers and get out of the conservative territory and end up in budget deficits. You're spending money you're not going to get. So surplus equipment sale, $100. Transport, you see on there, it says 300. That's once again, I think a very conservative number. We just talked about the time clock, the window. That lag time of when we transport a patient to when we actually collect the money for that transport, usually 60, 90, 120-day lag time before we actually collect the revenues when we transport. And so just because, let's say July 1, we stopped transporting, or for our case, probably July was 30th or 31st, last day of July. I don't know. It's the end of July 31st, we stopped transporting. That doesn't mean the revenue stops. We are going to see revenues continue to trickle in over time. And eventually that will matriculate down and stop because we're no longer transporting, but that's going to take time. So we are assuming 300,000 in transport revenue in this budget once we turn into the new fiscal year. Fire mid campaign. We did not cut that. We left the fire mid campaign in there. Our folks just bought memberships wherever we end up. One of the things we will do is make sure that that fire med is honored. So folks have purchased a fire med membership. whether it's us, private contractor, City of Eugene, whoever ends up, if we vacate, whoever ends up taking over the ASA, we are going to ensure that they honor fire med. And make sure our customers are taken care of since they have purchased that membership. External training, down, $20,000. One of the things you'll see in this budget, and that's more shifting of people on our external training. That is, like CPR classes, those kind of things, fire extinguisher training, those kind of things. With the movement of staff to cover positions and no more ambulance service. We will see, our pub ed PIO person, that will go away. They will, because of their seniority, they will bump up and go, I don't say bump up, they will be back to the line again and filling a line position. And so we will lose that pub ed PIO position. They will be back to line. So we predict less revenue in that. Service billing, 30,000. There's our Santa Clara contract. We talked about the Santa Clara budget. 852,884. GEMT. We estimate conservatively 150,000 in ground emergency medical transport reimbursement. Because we are still transporting, we will still garner the revenue for those transports. We will file for our GMT fee for service because we did it. We may not be transporting, but we still have that available. If we will file, just like we always do, our CCO contracts, all that. But we took a very conservative look at that of 150,000. Obviously, not enough cash to operate on till we get our tax revenues. And so once again, and I have already started that process with Special District Association of Oregon, and that's acquiring a tax anticipation note, or what they call a TRAN, tax revenue anticipation note. We have been doing that for the last 8 years, 9 years, I don't know. And so we are going to have to rely on that tax anticipation note again this year, next year, same as we did this year, to the level of 1.5 million. Just to be clear, we don't get tax revenues in this new budget until November, December. And so we have to be able to pay the bills, pay the people, operate, keep the lights on, the fuel, all that until we get to getting our tax revenue. And so that money helps us operate, make payroll, do all those things from July 1st, plus our cash carryover until we start getting those tax revenues in. When we get those tax revenues in, usually late December, early January, then we wire the bank back and we pay that note off plus interest. So that brings our total resource estimate, not taxes, to $3,787,984. We expect our tax levy to be $6,101,353, bringing our total resources to $9,889,337.
Still in 13.
Oh, that's true. Well, here, Rose is bringing up to me about increasing. I don't think we need a motion on that. Consensus, LFA Board Budget Committee, you folks are good with our increase of up to $1 million from 700 on cash carryover.
That would bring the total resources to $10,189,337.
Yep. Got it right here. $10,189,337 will be our total resources for the budget. All right, moving on.
Can you, before we do that, just
Yeah.
line 13, the Conflagration Act, there's no revenue here, so I'm assuming that means we're not responding to.
No, the way conflagration works, and we've always done it historically, we anticipate $100 in there, so it puts a little money in the revenue line. If we don't end up going on a conflagration, we're down $100 on revenue anticipation. If we go and say, man, we think we're gonna go on 5 conflagrations this year, and that's gonna generate $200,000, and if we put that in there,
Oh, I see.
in that line and anticipate 200, and then we end up going on 0, and we go on no conflagrations, then we're now 200,000 short in revenue. So really the $100 for conflagration is a placeholder for us.
So it's blank, it's blank right now?
Hmm?
It's blank right now?
Is it? Did I leave it blank?
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine.
Oh, well, hell of a deal. We should probably put $100 in there. Too many budgets, people, too many things. Yes, and Rose brings up a point here talking to me, partially because we don't know if we're gonna be able to orchestrate the staff to be able to respond to a conflagration this year, given our current budget outlook. That might not be in our bailiwick come this fire season. So,
Does that mean we're gonna have to return that type 3?
no, no, actually, that engine, it is not required that we send that out on a conflagration. That is not a requirement of their grant program at State Fire Marshals. We do. I've always made the statement, you know, they give us a free engine. We can use it at our free will. We have to meet maintenance requirements every year for that apparatus. As Bill well knows, we have to send reports, tell them everything we do with it, how many calls a month it goes, you know, all these things. They are free to come and inspect it at any time. It has to be housed inside, plugged in, warm, yada, yada, yada. But there is no requirement that we send it out. We do. That's our first out. If we have to respond with a type 3, we take that. They granted that to us through a grant program, and I think we should using it for its purpose and fly the flag. So I have added $100. Thank you for catching that. To Conflagration Act, that brings our total resources there to 10,189,437. Moving on, I'm going to skip past the LB30, the summary of all funds, unless somebody just wants to use that and we'll call it a day. I will move to the next page, which is personnel services in our LB31. First things first, when we proposed this budget, I talked about it earlier, we are in the middle of negotiations, obviously did not get our levy renewed. These wage proposals in here, or what you're looking at, is current year's wage. So this is basically, we have froze wages in time in this proposal. If that's where we'll end up, we don't know. But nonetheless, we had to propose something. We don't know where it's going to be at. Given our revenues, we proposed just status quo on wages from administrative staff clear down through all of our positions. And so no changes in wages, no cost of living increase. One thing to note, and this has been brought up, if we have someone like a newer hire, they're at step 2 during this budget cycle, they're going to move to step 3 in the contract. That is figured into this budget because we have to contractually move them up in steps on their anniversary date of hire. And so we have figured that into the budget, but we have not proposed an increase in wage in this budget. So just so folks are clear, we're not freezing somebody at the step and not doing it. We have to move someone up in step, as we should, because we are bound by our bargaining agreement to do that. So just to be clear. Obviously, fire chief, assistant chief, in this proposed budget model, will maintain 3 line captains or 6 lieutenants, and 6 engineers, 1 maintenance supervisor. Our fire marshal, we have to maintain our fire marshal here in Lane Fire Authority for business inspections, fire investigations, all those things. And then obviously our business manager. And then maintenance worker, we call it 0.25 maintenance worker that we have to the tune of $4,000. And what that is we were once again will be providing weekend tender operators for Oregon Department of Forestry, as we've done for the last, I think this is year 12, we've done that. Those are volunteers in our organization. that are trained and equipped, and I just created the schedule for it. We have 3 folks this year. They're going to be providing tender standby weekends for Oregon Department of Forestry. Bob Buckridge, Mike Montgomery, and Tim Bond. They will be doing that again, and so we pay them, and then we invoice Oregon Department of Forestry for their standby pay. Or if they go out on a fire, their hourly rate, we invoice Oregon Department of Forestry and they reimburse us for that. So that money in there is the placeholder, the ability for us to pay those people. Ultimately, we will get reimbursed for it. It goes back into miscellaneous income. That's kind of a piece of miscellaneous income. So that's what that is for. Moving on down, you can see we have no firefighter positions. Currently, we have 2 firefighters on the line. They are not engineers. We have 0 firefighters. So our layoffs start seniority from the bottom. You know, last one hired, first one laid off, and moves up in consecutive order to make our budget work. And so that brings us to a total of, where are we at total positions?
Oh, could you underline the
19.
engineer number, the difference between last year's budget or the current year's budget and the proposed budget dollar numbers is pretty significant. So can you tell me what?
Because we had the folks that will be laid off, the majority of them are engineers.
What was the number? I mean, the 6s, I assume, for this coming proposed, you know what the number, what that?
Oh,
It was 16 last year.
16 last year, was it?
Yeah, it was. I just looked at the last year's budget.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Moving on down, our assumed overtime, obviously given reduction in staff, meeting that liability, 791,961. A piece of that overtime is, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, a piece of that is what we call FLSA overtime. Our line folks work a 48.96 on a 14-day FLSA cycle. And so just naturally, if they just come, work their 48, go home, and they do that all year, they have a certain component, the way it works for firefighters, they have a built-in overtime that they hit every third week.
Third paycheck.
Every third paycheck, there's halftime, and then there's FLSA halftime, FLSA overtime. So the way their rotating schedule works is a 2,912-hour employee. There's just naturally built-in overtime in their regular schedule. And then, of course, anytime they backfill, somebody's sick on vacation and they're a minimum staffing position, we hire somebody back to ensure that we have that individual there filling that position for response, whether it's on a medic, on the line, whatever it is. And so that's where we derive our overtime number. Vacation liability, 311,000 this year. Single role medics is 0 positions. Currently, we had rolled out our single role program, Medic 125 with single roles. We started that a year and a half ago, probably a little more than that, year and a half ago. As I said, we pulled the horns back, not fill positions. Folks have just pumped up to fill those line positions. So currently we have both of our single role positions are vacant, and they will remain vacant in this budget. Moving on down, employer expenses, like a Medicare, 298,668, state unemployment. And so you'll see that is drastically higher than what it has been in the past. Ultimately, when and if we lay folks off, they have a right as a worker to go out, file for unemployment. We are, and as always have been, and most fire districts are, pretty much self-insured when it comes to unemployment. And so they go file for unemployment. And so we've got to assume, based on the number of staff we lay off, that they are going to go file, get their unemployment. And so we are going to get the bill from the state for that. We have to pay that. So we're assuming roughly 250,000 in unemployment cost out of this. Retirement, based on our PERS rates, 1,034,375. Medical and dental insurance, obviously down. because we have the, much less staff, 812,132. Life, accident, disability and death, 43. Workers' comp, once again, we are assuming less staff, less payroll because workers' comp, our premium is derived on gross payroll for the coming year, 170,000. WBF, once again, less staff, 1,022 this current year, 489 the coming year. And then paid leave Oregon, we'll see that drop slightly based on our staffing level to 15,506. So that brings us to a total for personnel services of 6,070,129 for personnel services. Any questions, other questions, personnel service? We've got to work hard to make that a different picture than what we're proposing here. All right, moving on, materials and services. Office supply, printing, copying, 15,000. Maintenance, repair, office and computer systems. This was, I would say, this was kind of an arduous task going through. When we talk about materials and services, and if we're not running ambulances on the road anymore, what's that mean to us when it comes to materials and services? All the supply, the fuel, all those things. So we have done our best to try to estimate. We've never been here before, so this is our best estimation on what we're gonna need, minus having ambulances on the road every day. Maintenance, repair, office equipment, 50,000. Postage and freight, 2,500. Telephone and internet service, 55,000. Electronic communications, all of our response database, image trend, our scheduling program, Slate, all those things we have to subscribe to keep our business turning, 58,000. Utilities, electric, water, sanitation, slightly down. For instance, we wouldn't have staff at 113 because there would be no ambulance there. So we assume we're probably going to have a little bit less station cost. No ambulance at 115, it's going to be less staff there, less water usage. Once again, taking our best guesstimation at what that's going to be, 72,000. Garbage collection, 7,000. Heating, oil and gas, 36,000. Laundry services, 5,500. Vehicle fuel, 97,000. Hopefully we're pretty close on that. I don't know, given the current prices. Banking services really won't change any. That stays pretty static, $6,000. Accounting services, 31,000. We're under contract with our auditor. That's really not going to change, whether we're doing transport or not this coming fiscal year. We got to go through our annual audits. We will actually go through an audit and file it with the Secretary of State. If anybody gets my connotation there, we do it every year like we're supposed to. Once again, if anybody gets my connotation there, we do it every year. So, where was it? I lost my place now. We're off on a tangent. 3243. Legal services, consulting, labor negotiations, 65,000. We kept that one up there because remember when we started in that November campaign, when we went into that, we went into a contract with a consulting firm, PR firm, to help us with our campaign. We went ahead and left that there just so we had it available. Obviously, we did not pass our levy. We're going to need to be going back out again. That's yet to be determined if we do, if we don't, if we do, what level is it going to be? But we wanted the ability there to have some funds to be able to hire a contractor, run a campaign, whatever we need to do. Obviously, we're probably going to be looking at something in this coming fiscal year. Dispatch and radio services, 386,000 will probably be about status quo there. Our dispatch bill is derived on call volume, so it's a per call charge, and it is based on prior year. So just because we're not transporting anymore at the first of this fiscal, our charge is going to be based on this year right now where we're still transporting. So we assume we're gonna be pretty much status quo when it comes to our dispatch bill. Insurance, really not gonna change much. Drop a couple units off of it maybe, but it's not gonna fluctuate much. Legal notices 15,000, dues and memberships 12,000. Training admin staff 7,000, training board of directors 3,500, travel admin staff 7,000, travel board of directors 4,000. Chief's expense account, I don't need an expense account. Gone. Uniforms 30,000. Rent, no rent, we said we're not gonna pay rent anymore. That rent, if you remember, was the $5 a year for Station 108 down the Rain. Through the board of directors, we vacated that property. Last, when did we do that? October? I think it was October. That Station 108 down the Rain has been on a many-year lease. That lease expired about, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, that Crow Valley had established down there. And the family that owned the property leased it to the district for $5 a year. That family, when the lease expired, we basically talked them into renewing that lease. They would only go 5 years. That was up. The lease was coming up this year. And so they sent a letter to us, was brought forth to the board of directors. They wanted to sell the property. They offered us a great deal on it. The price was based on assessed value, which I think was 220 or 240,000. When I brought that to the board and we proposed it, we have not had a apparatus respond out of that station in probably 8 or 10 years down there. The last volunteer we had down there at that Lorraine station left about 8 or 10 years ago, somewhere around there. And prior to that, it had one volunteer for 8 or 10 years. So the last 16 to 20 years, virtually we had no activity out of that station. And so I think it was, appreciate that family offering us such a great price to buy it. We did not have the financial ability to be able to purchase it. So the board of directors chose to just vacate and close it, that facility. And through the lease agreement, the facility, the old water tank that's there, all that became property of the owner through that process. Which is probably a good thing, because it would have cost us more to get rid of it than it was worth. So we vacated that station. We're not paying that $5 rent anymore. Water, food, condiments, bottled water, all those things, 9,500. Recruiting and exams in recruitment and retention, keeping it status quo, 3,500. We got to continue to recruit folks and run those processes. Recruit training, 1,500. Volunteer support. We have schwacked volunteer support in this budget. I don't think the association is sitting that bad this year right now. And so we have cut volunteer support, the payments to the association, down to $5,000. LoSAP, same thing. Volunteer cell phone reimbursement, 6,000. Civil Service Commission, still $100. Fire med memberships, we will still strive to pay folks fire med membership, as we've always done. Our ground transport's a wash. We're the provider, always have been in the past. And then we assume the air membership out of that. So that's for that line item. And DPSST fingerprinting and backgrounds, 4,500. Moving on to health and wellness. Oh, sorry, I skipped over. 3317, the bottom line under recruitment and retention, educational reimbursement. We have deleted any monies out of educational reimbursement in this budget. Student resident program, same thing. We have cut that reimbursement out for student residents. Health and wellness program, medical evaluations renewals, 18,980. Not quite the level we are, but we've got to continue that program. Captain Johnson's our health and safety officer, and sitting in finance committee. That's where we ended up in this budget proposal. We did not want to just absolutely cut out all of our preventative medical. Some of those things you just need to hang on to. That's one of them. We've been doing preventative medical for our folks, both paid and volunteer, for many, many years now. And we have had the good fortune through the expenditure of those funds to get early detection on some things, whether it was in our volunteer staff or our paid staff, and they're able to get ahead of it and get it addressed. So that is the level we are funding that at this year. Not full program, but still maintaining the program there. So 18,980. Medical evaluations for new recruits. When we bring them in, they have to go through a medical evaluation, whether they are a volunteer or career. $12,000. Medical evaluations, new hires fit for duty, 2,000. Vaccinations, we offer vaccinations every year to all of our career and volunteer staff, 400. And then moving down into physical fitness, gym equipment maintenance and repair, 2,000. Pure fitness trainer certification. Just it was very small. We ended up just getting it out of there at $300. So nothing in that line item. Our employee assistance program, that is our EAP, employee assistance program through Cascade Health. Correct? Am I right? Cascade Health. We will continue that. That is, we've had that for many years. That is the ability for our employees or spouses, members of family to reach out to a counselor. It is all confidential. That is available to all of our employees and volunteers. Along with that, as per our contract, we established this second year, and that is an on-call mental health clinician. And that has worked out very great. Our folks have taken advantage of that and make regular visits to our folks. Once again, all part of that care and feeding of our folks, of our career volunteer staff. And so we have a mental health clinician under contract, and I believe that is a little over 18,000 as part of that. The rest of that is the EAP program. Next page. Fire rescue operations, supplies, fire suppression, 5,000, maintenance and repair of fire equipment, 45, safety supplies, 5,000, address markers. We are sitting great with address markers. We don't need any more. Water sources and hydrant testing. We did not need to fund those this year. Fire rescue training program, fire training supplies, 2,000, just dry goods, OSB board for roof props, all those kinds of things for our folks to go out, cut stuff up and train. 4 stores, maintenance and repair of training equipment. We're in really good shape. We put $100 in there as a placeholder. Fire training classes, we have slightly reduced it. As you can see in some of the previous years, we were probably just maybe slightly over budgeting there. For the amount of times our folks went out and did outside fire training classes. So we've left that at 3,000, and then travel for those classes at 3,000, a little bit down from what we've had historically. But once again, we don't want to just eliminate the ability, no matter what kind of financial picture we have or whatever, the staff we have, the volunteers, we still encourage them to go out and seek, knowledge, skills, abilities, further education. And we do not want to get rid of that ability for them. Emergency medical services program, supplies, EMS. Here's another one, trying to get the best gauge we can. We basically cut it in about half, just because if we don't have ambulances on the road, that's a significant portion of what medical supplies we buy, IV drip sets, Band-Aids, ET tubes, all those things. So that use of supply without ambulances will significantly reduce. And so we have dropped that to $60,000. EMS training supply is 100 sublet of maintenance and repair EMS equipment, down slightly, $10,000. Cardiac monitors, without the ambulances running, those aren't going to be running in ambulances. So just for an example. Moving on down, EMS continuing education, 1,500. EMT recertification, 3,000. We are coming around this cycle in this budget year. It will be time for all of our EMT basics, intermediates, advanced, and all of our paramedics to renew their licensure. And the district reimburses those individuals for that licensure. And so it fluctuates, as you'll see historically, very low. This is an EMR year. We have very few EMRs, so that cost is way down. And so we're back up again. We estimate, given the staff, we'll have about 3,000 for EMT recertification. Physician advisor, we'll be negotiating that down as we won't have transport. So we haven't exactly finished those talks yet, but we assume he's a really good guy. We're going to drop that contract. We still have to have a physician advisor, whether we transport or not. Every fire district who provides EMS services has to have one. And so we basically just cut it to $15,000. It could be less than that. So, and then ambulance billing services, $20,000. We are still going to have that maintenance of accounts, some charts still being taken care of. And so best guess, we assume about another $20,000 in ambulance billing services to pay our billing company for maintenance of charts. Maintenance.
You all that as a contract that you have,
Yeah.
that's not
Yes.
in-house.
Yeah, we use a third-party billing company, and we always have ever since we started doing transport. That is just a piece of business that we do not want to get into. I think if I would have had to do that, I'd probably be in federal prison by now, because I would probably inappropriately bill Medicare, Medicaid. So we use a third-party contractor for that. Materials supply in our maintenance program, building maintenance, $20,000. Materials supply apparatus maintenance, $60,000. Once again, dropped it slightly. We spend a fair amount of cash just maintaining ambulances, changing oil, repairs, routine maintenance, all those things. Once again, best estimation. It could be slightly above that. It could be slightly below it. We're just trying to put the best science on it. Materials and supply, radio and electronics, 1,000. Sublet, maintenance and repair buildings and grounds, $100,000, down from 150 this year. Sublet maintenance and repair of vehicles, 200,000, down 100,000 from this year. We are probably getting to a point, we're not gonna have to worry about ambulance repairs and breakdowns, and we may be even getting to a point where if an engine breaks down, we just park it for a while and use a different one. We've got a fair amount of apparatus, so we have dropped that line item down to 200. Sublet maintenance or repair electronics communication, $3,000. Down to fire prevention and public education program. Supplies for public education, fire prevention. Obviously, I talked about we're not going to have anyone in that position, but we still do have a fire marshal that will, I have no doubt, be doing some pub ed activities, although they are not going to have a lot of time to do that just because of the load they carry as far as business inspections, fire investigations, driveway inspections, all those things. And so we are going to keep $6,000 in there for public education, fire prevention. Kids love the little plastic hats and stickers, and those are not cheap. And then down to 3813, training, prevention, and public education, $2,000. Down to external training programs, supplies, and external training. Obviously, we see that drop. We're not going to be teaching CPR like we did before, or burning up extinguisher. Does that extinguisher come out of that? Anyway, we still are a AHA. What's the term?
Training center.
We are AHA training center. That is actually ran and administrated. If anyone remembers Chief Chris Heppel, Chris Heppel still manages that on behalf of the district. And so that passes through us. And so that AHA training center does ACLS, all the alphabet courses, also is the moderator for those courses. And so there are some costs that are incurred with that. To keep that going, we're not going to let that go. We're going to maintain it. But we have dropped it slightly down to 15,000 just because we are gonna be doing the amount of business we have in the past. So that brings our total materials and services to 1,835,650. For materials and services. Next page, the LB 31, small equipment. This year, we did not, we had reestablished our capital reserve fund here, in which we had funneled revenues into. One of the things we accomplished out of the 35-cent operational levy over the last 5 years, and that was to save up enough money. Historically, we did not have a capital reserve fund, so we reestablished that fund again to start, putting money away for those large capital purchases. And then we did not fund anything in capital outlay general fund. So when we did a resolution this year and we moved conflagration revenues into capital reserve, because we make money on the apparatus that goes out. We make an hourly rate on my staff vehicle, a fire truck, even the state vehicle down here. If we take it out, a Type 3 engine gets paid a certain rate per hour when it's on a conflagration deployment. The Type 3 rate, we get half the rate for that engine down there. So we not only get a free engine out of it, the state pays us half of the Type 3 rate as well, using their engine. So anyway, those, by the end of the year, we responded on a number of conflagrations. We took those monies over and above because we get made whole and reimbursed for all personnel expenses, including overtime, when our folks go out on a conflagration, including their base salary. That's paid by the state when they're out on a deployment. And so the revenues that we end up making as what I call profit out of that, we normally just fund those to either a catastrophe, like we blew an engine in something and we're going to be over in that line item, or we take the money and we generally funnel it to capital reserve to save it. When we did it through resolution this year, we funneled it to the capital reserve fund on our LB11. Well, technically, the way we did the resolution, we actually funneled it to general fund capital outlay. So although we show nothing in there, we actually have about $50,000 sitting in general fund capital outlay right now. And so that is what you see demonstrated, because that 50,000 is sitting in there. That is what you see, and we've just kind of spread that out across the line. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. You're looking at me like, boy,
No,
Chief,
that's
you
okay, bro.
really screwed that up.
Well,
No,
because it's showing that it's 50,000 in.
there is there too. It's different. I'll get to it. So, long story short, that money, when we moved, we thought we were putting it to the reserve fund. It went to our capital outlay general fund. And so that's what we see demonstrated there. And we have spread that out across our capital outlay line items. So that brings our total capital outlay expenditures in general fund to 50,000. Doesn't mean we're going to spend it, but it is nonetheless there. Debt service. You'll see current year, that first column from the line items to the left. This is our last year of debt service. So we will make our last payment to Banner on the loan we took out 6 years ago, which we bought a medic, some equipment. This is our final payment. We should be making that here. I believe it's in June. We make that final payment. And so we have zero debt service coming into this new fiscal year. Zero debt service, no loans hanging out there. Clear back when Chief Nye was here, bought the property over here, the field out there. That when that was done, I don't know how many years ago. We are making the final payment on that this year. So we are debt service free in this projected budget. Thank goodness. And then moving down to special payments, that's where you'll see we talked about the tax anticipation note. And that is that $1.5 million we're borrowing to keep us operating, paying the bills and payroll until we get to tax collections. And then obviously we're borrowing money, so we have to assume interest we are going to have to pay on that short-term loan. And we assume that's going to be about $60,000 in interest we have to pay. And so there's the payback of the tax anticipation at $1,560,000. Moving on down, obviously with our financial picture, we are not making any transfer to our capital reserve sinking fund. Zero transfer this fiscal year. So no transfers. Contingency fund. We did opt to once again stick $100,000 in contingency, especially given how we had to reorchestrate this budget and not knowing exactly where we were going to fall in total costs. We are taking our best educated guess at it, so we put $100,000 in contingency. That brings our total expenditures, obviously, to $9,615,779. That leaves us in the general fund an unappropriated ending fund balance. And remember, we already increased our cash carryover by $300,000. So now that unappropriated ending fund balance will be $573,558. Bringing our total requirements to. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Did that include the $100 you added underneath the?
Let me tell you real quick. I've got the spreadsheet up here and I will tell you what the number will be. And it will be right here. I have the spreadsheet version of what you're looking at. So yes, I added in the 100 in calibration and revenues. We increased from 700 cash carryover to 1 billion cash carryover. So that brings our total requirements to 10,189,437. Is that correct? No, that is not correct.
That's our total revenue.
Total revenue. Yeah, what should be total? Right? Yeah. Because we increased it. Let me go back to the sheet because I wrote it down here. Yes, we increased it by $300,000. So 10,189,337 is our total requirements. So that leaves our unappropriated ending fund balance at 573,558 instead of 273,558. I'm going to ask the budget committee, obviously, this is the budget we are intending to propose. All I've talked about. We don't want to leave the ASA. We don't want to vacate it. We want to maintain it. So we talk about this different picture and what we look like. Going into the next fiscal year, probably going into, most likely, hopefully, going into a supplemental budget process to address it. To fix this. If we end up in some form or fashion of maintaining more staff than we intended to lay off, we maintain the ASA, however we look. We still have a day car on the road. We still have a 24-hour car. I don't know. We need to figure that out, get that worked out. This budget is not going to work for us. We will have to do a supplemental budget when we get into the new fiscal year. We will follow the process according to law, and we will fix it. We will do a supplemental budget, bringing the revenues in, showing the expenditures going out of what we will look like in the forecasted picture based on what we can do. So given that, for right now, I would like to give us a little bit more flexibility. Obviously, we just updated. We're pretty darn sure of what our cash carryover is going to be. We've increased that from 7 to 1 million. I would like to take that money. We're showing 573, 558. I would basically like to leave 100,000 in unappropriated, and the remainder of that 473,558, add that to our contingency, which would give us 573,558 in contingency.
So that contingency then can be used anywhere.
Correct. We can use it in materials and services, personnel services. We could use it in capital outlay if we choose. And contingency is spent throughout the year. Normally, it's something we do toward the end of the fiscal year if we need to move some money from contingency, and that is done by the board of directors through a resolution process, and we've done that multiple times over the years. That's a simple administrative process through the board of directors to do that. But I would like to move that money up into contingency just to give us a little more flexibility within our budget, depending. And we haven't quite finished. We still got to go through the capital reserve fund.
I got a question about
Yeah.
recruits, training, and the resident program. I see we didn't do the training.
We didn't do an academy.
The academy, this year, right? We did it last, we didn't do it this year. And I don't necessarily see a line item of expense for that, so I'm not sure where that falls in I see the recruits, the resident volunteers as our future people.
Mhm.
Who make this, great place, and I worry that we're not making. That we don't have in this budget the investment to do that, and I understand we're talking about a lot of cuts and we're cutting employees, and that's really hard. And I don't want to be dismissive of that, but I also just want to understand, is there an opportunity, or would there be a benefit to have some ability in the budget with $100 placeholder or something like that, to have resident volunteers or have a tuition program for some point during the fiscal year, so we have the bill. I mean, are we, by having those,
It is
zero, can we do that?
I would say if we want to do that, and I absolutely agree with your point. Another point I bring up as well, and I haven't brought it up yet, haven't got to it. That is a key thing that comes to mind. We're gonna have to lay people off, but the value we get out of our volunteers or out of district volunteers or resident volunteers. We did the numbers on that this last year. Our volunteer time, the time they spent at the station equated to 9.5 full-time employees. That's the amount of time. So I agree. It is within the purview of the LFA budget committee to put funds back into that line item. And I don't think it's a huge lift either to fund that.
I would like to have something in there, and I don't know if I know what the amount is, but I would like to recommend we put something in for that, so we have some commitment to that program.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's the time frame on your supplemental budget? You have to have that.
There's no time frame. Really, actually, I think, and Rick's my city guy, probably talk about this. We really need to, once we get into the new fiscal year, we're gonna know where we're at. As pretty resolute with that fact. And so after we start our new fiscal year, we're gonna know where we need to be. We're gonna make the new documents. This is what we need to do, put the process together. And then I think getting it done sooner rather than later, because technically you're not supposed to spend revenues that you don't have or not assuming. And so, but given this, it's an entire year's budget. So we've got some time window there to get through a supplemental budget process and make those adjustments. So it's not like, we start the new year, we've got, 1 month to get that done. I think we could do it middle of summer, latter part of summer, whatever we need to do, as long as we are not exceeding what we have here. If we go and wait till the 11th hour of this fiscal year, and we've already spent beyond what we anticipated in personnel services, yes, then we are in violation of budget law. We just need to get it done before we violate what we have said in the document. We need to update the document, and we do that through a supplemental budget process. Yeah.
Dale, do you have a breakdown of what the residents provide on full-time equivalent?
And you said 9.
I said volunteers and residents. I wanted to know if you have a specific just for the residents.
No, when I say that, I'm talking about our
Residents and
resident,
volunteers.
the folks that are part of a resident volunteer program that, some live here, some live at Station 116 in
Yes.
Santa Clara. our out of district folks that come in full shift, and then our in district volunteers.
Okay, so you don't have a breakdown of what the actual, just the residents themselves provide. I'm just trying to see if it's financially, you know, is that bringing value to or to put money into the resident services, is what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Definable, definable value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Understand that.
Rose.
Let me look, it's gonna take me a second, I do have that number.
So. Am I hearing consensus then, LFA Budget Committee want to fund that?
The total would be the educational reimbursement part plus the, so it'd be the 95,000, is that what the total is for the resident?
Yeah, it looks like the 40.
85,260 is what Rose had.
But
To
doesn't budget.
fully fund that, resident program.
85,260, you said?
85,260, and I believe that is 6 residents, 3 here, 3 in North Battalion. Fully funded through the whole year.
Right.
And we've never really realized that residents have it's been fluctuated up and down. So we've never went full budget on our resident program.
Could take that down to 50% of the
For grade,
previous, and
2.5,
you still have the
2.5%,
contingency.
2.5 FTE area.
okay, that's what I'm, okay.
That was in 2024.
I'm gonna suggest that we do 50% for those 2 line items of the current budget. We always have the contingency to be able to give us a flexibility.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, and
Does that make sense?
were we in?
So personnel services.
No, it's.
They're pushed to personal services. 34. Yeah,
I know.
that would be.
You're the one
There.
One, that's what Tracy says.
for-
50%.
That's where you'd come in, you know,
30. Okay. So in personnel services, line item 3034, student residents, 20,130. That would be a 50% funding of that. And then we go to
3329.
What was that? 3321.
oh yeah, 3320. Yep. And that would be 22,500. The other one was,
They were quite.
and so that would be 22,500. Okay.
What was the number there for 3321?
22,500.
Do you need to do 50% when your 2 prior years were more than 20,000?
Well, once again, that's, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Like I said, we've never went like full budget. But
You're suggesting
it's not that,
22,500.
I think as long as we've got,
That just doesn't it just strip it, that's the big thing. You want to have some kind of flexibility.
yes,
That's what I want, is I
Yeah.
want something in there that,
as long as there's something
work
in
with.
there,
right,
we could exceed it by $1,000 from what we put in there. We could exceed it by 1,000. But in that category of whether it's in personnel services or material services, as long as we are not over budget, then we're fine. And we see that always every year in our budget. We'll go a little bit over on something, but we're slightly under on something else.
If we decide that more, and then we could fix it with the supplemental, correct, after January 1st.
Right. Yes, and that, once again, the board at the budget hearing, the board has the ability at budget hearing, and which will be in the 3rd Tuesday in June. The board cannot increase revenues in a budget, but the board has the purview to increase a category of the budget, personnel services, materials services, capital outlay, not more than 10% of the line item. So the board, and like last year, I think it was when we hit budget hearing, we were a little low on our workers' comp estimate, and so you saw the proposed budget adopted by budget committee, and then we had to increase that up. I think it was 170 to 200 or 230. And the board did that at the budget hearing. So the board has some flexibility in what they can do with the proposed budget document at their budget hearing. So before they adopt it as a governing body. All right, and our last LB form, and that is LFA's capital reserve fund. And we are at cash on hand. We have roughly $50,000 left in there. This last year, we did our medic purchase and pretty much exhausted everything when saved. We had to replace a couple medics. We did that. We are basically sitting at about 50,000 left in that capital reserve. Obviously, as we saw in the general fund, we have not appropriated any transfers to that. So for this proposed budget, it will just remain at 50,000. We assume about probably $500 interest throughout the year on that, bringing our total resources for that capital reserve fund to 50,500. I have allocated, in case we need to buy something, have allocated that 50,000. We have nothing proposed at this point, but we have the ability to spend that 50,000 out of capital reserve, which would leave us an unappropriated ending fund balance of 500. And bringing the total requirements to $50,500 for. And that is the sum total of our budget. Question? Anybody want to hear me talk? I look around the table, I sense probably a lot of questions looming back in there, but I think that we just got, right now, we've got some unknowns in front of us. We've got work to do, as staff, most definitely. As I said, we just sat down at the table, our contract is open. We started that negotiations process yesterday. Got through most of the kind of the minutia work of negotiations, and we'll meet again this next week. We have got staff work to do, to be prepared to move into that meeting. We'll be looking at this document in negotiations, which is proposed by the budget committee. We'll be talking about that, and then obviously, we will be at the table with labor, and we're gonna every nook and cranny discuss every avenue, because we don't want this to be our outcome. We want a different outcome. So it's about maintaining service. It's about maintaining people and positions to the best of our ability, given our current financial climate. And so we've got to partner together and work through these things. It's the darkest.
Dale, did you want to do public comment on this before you do the?
Yeah,
resolutions?
I was entertaining if there were any other questions from the board or budget. To finish my thought, it is the darkest days.
I guess I have a question is, think a lot about the last few days for a while now, obviously. What are we giving up in this budget, in this situation that we have? We've talked about the ambulance service and the ASA as potential, we have a contingency plan for that. And aside from the loss of people who won't be here, which I don't want to minimize in any way, but I think we all understand that that's a context here. The question I have is there other things that we're currently doing that with this budget, we're not going to be able to do anymore? We're not going to be able to get back.
There's no training staff.
We have no training, no training staff in this budget. obviously, we're still flushing out some things. One of our battalion captains is now in charge of training. But then that individual obviously just taken on additional workload. So when we talk about things like a recruit academy or whatever, we have not figured that out. Do we go to, bringing somebody on and they obtain their recruit training on shift with a crew? We just don't know. We haven't flushed it out. So when you talk about giving something up, we are definitely suffering in the training side.
But we can't, I mean, I agree. I
We
understand.
can't just stop. We have to we have to figure out how we can continue to bring folks in to this organization as volunteers and continue to get them appropriately trained and so that they can respond to calls for service. We've got to get that figured out. I don't have an answer for you right now, but we are kind of on a hiatus right now, like we did during COVID. We have got to get that figured out, and we have got to continue on down that road doing that. We cannot just stop bringing in volunteers to this organization. It is a vital component of the service we provide. So,
Dale, is non-fire service personnel on the table? So bringing in people strictly for medical aids?
we haven't talked about that. But when you talk about that, we talk about single role.
Exactly.
Our
Single
staff,
volunteers or paid?
Single role volunteers.
single role volunteers, we haven't done that historically. We've talked about it a couple times over the years.
I know you like to I know you guys like to train for all hazard. I get that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes sense, but it's also a major time commitment.
Yeah.
And it's also a major training commitment.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people, you might be able to get these people that are medically trained already, but you might be able to get doctors and nurses and lower levels training folks that would be willing to volunteer to come in and back you up for
Yep.
these
No,
second, third calls in districts.
I think one thing to think about too, but is it take someone to recruit for those. We don't have
Yes,
anyone-
oh,
We
absolutely.
don't have anyone to do that. And as far as interest goes, in my experience, the last, except for this last year, last 20 years, we've had people that have approached the department wanting that, at least in my knowledge. In 20 years, it's probably been 10 people.
Yeah.
So it's not like people bang on, knocking on the doors. I mean, if we recruited for that,
Yeah.
possibly, but we don't have anyone to recruit besides. So.
Part of the issue with that, I've looked at a lot of different programs across the country and there's so many great things and so many different organizations who have volunteers where these 5 people do traffic and these. And
Yeah.
those are really good programs if you have the money to pay somebody to be in charge of them.
Yeah.
When you don't have the money for the overhead to run the programs, there's nobody to run the programs. And regardless of whether it's all hazards or EMS only or traffic only, somebody has to manage those programs, ensure they're compliant, ensure they're meeting our standards. And so what we tend to look for when we talk about the all hazards, what's the most bang for our buck? And really what ends up being the most bang for our buck is committing the staff time to train people who are willing to do it all. The amount of staff time to train folks who can only do a subsection, and then you have commanders on scene going, I don't actually have anybody here who can do the things I need them to do, even though maybe I have 10 awesome people here. If we had more finances and could put people in charge of those things, we did a CERT program for a while. Nobody to keep them rallied, keep them going. And so they're great programs. It's that we don't have the overhead to run them at the end of the day. It's
But
that.
at what point are we gonna have to say 80% of our call volumes are medical aids? So we're gonna say that might be somewhere we need to look because it's gonna be the best bang for a buck if we actually promote for it and train for it and monitor it. That's the big thing. So I mean, we're having a hell of a time getting all hazard volunteers, am I correct?
Yes and no.
Yes and no, we're
Yes and
actually
no.
doing pretty good. Diana has a list of a bunch of people. Our last academy was 12. We had 12 people in that. As we said, our volunteers put in 9.5 full-time employee hours, and that's 56-hour employees. That's not just 40-hour
Yeah.
employees. The concern right now is we don't even have training staff in this budget to train all hazards personnel, let alone anybody else. As Chief said, we got to figure out how to do that. Right now, as the previous training officer, we have not come up with a good solution, train them on shift. we run 20 calls a day. Well, how are we gonna train these folks on shift for what needs to be done? And so yes, I agree with you. It's that we don't even have the staff to do the all hazards,
Yeah.
let alone anything else.
Well, I'm just saying, when you look at the breakdown, 80% of your calls are EMS.
Yeah.
So you really got tailored for EMS. Yes, you have to be all hazard still.
Yeah.
But you gotta service the citizens of where the most impact is, and that's EMS.
Yeah.
So we gotta find a way to make that cost effective
Right.
and beneficial and minimize the waste, or I don't wanna say waste, but minimize the financial impact of the district.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is, but we gotta find a, we gotta find an answer. We may have to think outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kurt, the other thing that's not in this budget, this is highlight, we've said it, but making sure that is, our, public education. So that includes not just CPR, fire extinguisher, those are all really important things as well. Wildland, defensible space home assessments where we go out and help folks become more defensible, education to community,
Thank you, Frank.
education to the community. Whether it's, Lions Club, Kiwanis, a Grange, any neighborhood that wants to come in and learn more about that stuff, we don't have anybody to provide that. And unfortunately, that employee has also picked up a ton of the work that our executive assistant was doing. And now we don't have an executive assistant or that employee. I don't know that we can run business hours. I'm not sure how we're gonna run business hours when we can't guarantee anybody here to answer the phone or to answer questions. Public records requests, I don't have to do them, they're required, but they're difficult. I have a stack of medical record requests, DA requests, legal requests. That's all work has to be done and is supposed to be done, and we don't have
Every day, every week.
every day, every week.
It is amazing.
Updating our website and making sure, I mean, we have an awesome website currently, who's gonna maintain that? Not sure. Who's gonna post these meetings publicly on the website, who's gonna post our notices? We don't know. We don't know at this point
It's at the end of this table.
how all that's gonna work. And then the more you add to people's plates, what do they drop off? So, what is our fire marshal gonna have to drop off because he's trying to help in the maintenance division? Maintenance staff is cut drastically. One person to maintain 16 stations,
And a fleet.
and a fleet of apparatus.
I'll be turning wrenches again.
How do we get those apparatus to and from? Are we gonna start Ubering back? That's an expense, and there's. So there's a lot, there's a lot that is.
All right, any other questions? Do we have any public comment?
We did get a question online. Under the public education category, could we implement a fewer emergency calls program? Example would be a preventative safety checklist, CPR and choking instructional charts, links to CPR and choking videos, first aid supply checklist. This literature be mailed, with each city hall's mailings. It doesn't fix the budget, and we can promote fewer calls to hopefully free up staff to be more available to respond to higher level emergencies. All of this information could be compact.
I didn't quite catch all that. It was about. Oh,
Program like that, but
yeah, I haven't heard of that, but yeah, probably not, as Eric said, thinking outside the box. Probably not a bad idea. More materials on our website. I'll probably try to figure out how to put it up there, but I'll probably crash the website, but we'll get it done one thing. I'm a website designer. That's scary. Thank you. Any other public comment? No. Any other discussion or questions from Board or LFA Budget Committee? Folks, you're ready. It's resolution time. So this is Lane Fire Authority Budget Resolution 2025-2026-10. Proposing the budget and adopting the tax rate levy for fiscal year 2026-2027. Whereas the Budget Committee of Lane Fire Authority desires to use the permanent tax rate as their basis to levy taxes. And whereas the Budget Committee has held all statutorily required hearings and adoption by the governing body. Be it resolved that the Budget Committee of Lane Fire Authority at their budget meeting of May 21st, 2026. Hereby authorizes the district's permanent tax rate of $2.0388 per thousand of assessed valuation to be used as the basis to levy taxes for the general fund. Further, the Budget Committee recommends the proposed operating budget to the Board of Directors for adoption following public hearing before said board. Adopted by the Budget Committee of Lane Fire Authority this 21st day of May, 2026. Signed by the Budget Committee Chair and attested by the LFA Board President. We need a motion to adopt that resolution.
So made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Signatures on this. Got to follow you, so.
Start with our Budget Committee Chair. Online.
Very important person. Yeah.
Three.
All right. That concludes our Budget Committee process for the proposed budgets for 26-27. So board presidents, actually, Budget Committee chairs can adjourn their prospective meeting with the Budget Committee.
After the Lane Fire Authority, I'd like to adjourn this year's Budget Committee meeting.
Yeah, the Santa Clara Fire. Meetings.
And reconvene regular business meeting.
Let's take a short break.
Okay, I would like to say before everybody goes, thank you so much for coming out. It's sad times for us. We will get through this one way or another. I know us as staff, you folks as whether you're board of directors, whether you're budget committee members, obviously, you're willing to take the time to come in here as members of the community. Be a part of this process, help us navigate through. Thank you to all of you. See a lot of our staff here tonight, paid and volunteer sitting back here. This is times we have not seen before. Things, as I said, I never thought I would have to navigate or hoped I would never have to navigate in my career as a fire chief. But nonetheless, I have all the faith in the world in our organization that we are going to get through this one way or another. It is not the world we want to be in. Nonetheless, it is our reality. Ultimately, we are responsible to the taxpayers of our district. And so we've got to remain focused at the end of the day, even if we end up in the worst case budget, as we've talked about tonight, our ultimate responsibility and statutory responsibility is to the citizens of our fire district. And so maintaining that response to our citizens, that is our ultimate priority. And we will continue, no matter what, we will continue to serve our community in the best possible way we can, with the best possible service we can provide, given our current picture. So, thank you. That's all. Quick talk.
Hey, let's take a break.
I think a short break.